In this episode, we are speaking with Phyllis Winters, who's going to give us some really easy ways to integrate automations and AI into your business so that you can get more done as a solopreneur. And this is especially going to be helpful for anyone who's tech challenged. So if technology scares you, if you want to do AI and you want to do all these automations and cool things, but you're kind of afraid that you're going to goof it up, this episode is for you. So stay tuned.
If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now, let's get to it with today's guest.
Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. Phyllis, we're so glad to have you here. Why don't you give our audience just a little bit of background about who you are, what you do, and how you help people?
Thank you. Nice to be here, Todd. I actually started my first business way back when PCs were first introduced, which tells you how old I am. But I was told that that was never going to be a thing. But I stuck with it, started my business, and here it is decades later. And obviously PCs are a thing. And in the meantime, along came the internet, and along came now AI and all kinds of automation. And while I was coming up through all of those years, I was a certified public accountant, a management consultant, and an IT consultant, and a programmer. So I have all of those skills. And you may ask why. The main reason why was I had to make a living. And I was a CPA before I started my business, and I was an IT consultant. So I combined the things that I knew how to do and could do well for clients. And in those days, all of my marketing, if you could call it that, was all word of mouth referrals. And my clients started calling me like the woman with all the hats, like a cross-disciplinary person, because I could help them with their tech problems. I could help them with their business process problems, and I could help them with their accounting problems. So about 8 years ago, I brought all of that knowledge into the online space. And now I'm happy to say I'm a global company. I have clients on 5 of the continents, and I love helping people learn how to not be intimidated by AI or not be intimidated by automation. And I like to take people who feel overwhelmed and break it down into very understandable small bites and build on that so that they get confident using automation and AI. Because as Todd mentioned, you will save so much time and get so much more done. And it'll give you time to do what is your specialty instead of trying to learn tech, which is not your specialty. So that's kind of my purpose in life.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like with online marketing now, well, even with a local business, you want to be online and you want to market online, but especially if you're running your business online, there's a lot of tech that is open to you that you can be using and taking advantage of that I think a lot of people aren't. And I know even for me, I'm a more technically advanced person, but even when a new technology comes along for me, it's like I put off trying to implement it because I know that if I get into it, it's just going to suck so much of my time just trying to learn it and figure out what it can do, what it can't do, if it's even going to work. There's a lot of things that I've tried that it didn't do what I wanted it to do. And ultimately, I wasted a bunch of time trying to figure out something that ultimately didn't work. So yeah, I know it can be a huge issue, even for people who have an affinity for technology. But for someone who's maybe getting started out, like your business is coming in mostly through referrals and networking and things like that. They don't have a lot of technology set up, right? They don't have funnels, they don't have email automations or things like that. What are some of the very first things that you would suggest people get started with in order to start automating what they do, taking a lot of that hustle off their plate and start getting more done in their business?
Well, this is going to seem a little bit like a paradox because I believe very much in the power of one. But what I'm going to say is the first things you need to do that I did and you will need to do as you start going into the online world is you need one booking calendar. You need one email sequence. You need one landing page. And if you have a product or a course or coaching sessions or something to sell, you need one sales page for each of those things. So that might sound like a lot, but I'm not kidding. You can do each one of those things relatively easily. And I'm not talking about the kind that you would see on multi-million-dollar companies' websites. I'm talking about something that looks good, does its job, and saves you time and money. And I want to give a shout out here to, I use ConvertPoint, which Todd and Leah turned me on to, which is a go high level system. And what's so great about it is everything is under one dashboard. I started when I first came online, my first mentor was doing $1 million a month. So I, of course, being a tech person, I jumped in and did the same tech she was doing. So I got Schedule Once for my calendar, and I got Infusionsoft for my CRM, and I got ClickFunnels for my funnels, and I got LearnDash for my portal. And even for me, it was a lot of tech. And fast forward now with ConvertPoint, everything is under one roof. And even if you don't have a course yet, but you're planning to, I would start there because everything is connected. Half of the problem for non-tech people to get this stuff to work is to make it connect and to make it integrate and to make it work together. And with something like ConvertPoint, they take care of the heavy lifting. And then all you really need to do is write your copy. And I'm going to tell you a little trick about how to write your copy with some AI help. And then you do need to learn some basic about how to build a landing page and what have you. But there are templates. So for the tech challenge, and I don't like that word challenge, but I don't think you're challenged. I think you just haven't learned it yet. But the templates are there for everything. There's templates for calendars. There's templates for email. There's templates for landing pages. So it's the right place to start when you want to get automated. And I'm not going to lie, the first week or two that you're doing it, you are going to spend more time doing it. But then it's done. And then it's doing all the work in the background. And then you move on to the next thing. So I know that wasn't one thing, but that's what I would do to get started.
Yeah. And with ConvertPoint and other go high level systems, I will tell you that for us in our business, because we were just like you, we had all these different things that were doing different things for us. So, for our calendar, we had Schedule Once like you. At one time, we were using Infusionsoft for our email as well. And then we switched over to ActiveCampaign. And then before that, we even had Aweber was another one that we used. We've had like 3 or 4 different email marketing systems in our business just for one reason or another. We had another one for our CRM. Pipedrive was our CRM. We had to glue everything together with Zapier, right? Because they don't sue us.
Because they don't talk to each other naturally.
Yep. ClickFunnels. Yeah, ClickFunnels. We use that for the original ClickFunnels. ClickFunnels 1.0, I guess, is what we use.
That's one. Yeah, that's one that I use too.
Yeah, and I know it was costing us between all of our different systems about $1,700 a month just in software subscriptions to run our business. And when we switched over to ConvertPoint, that brought our costs down to just one payment of like $200 or $300. I forget what we even pay for.
Mine was, I didn't have probably as much as you did, but mine was it was like $587 or something like that per month. And when I went to ConvertPoint, even with the training module, being able to do a course portal, it's $247 a month. It's less than half of the money, and it saves me so much time. That's the right way for people who don't know the tech just yet. This is the right way to get started. Having come up through the trenches like you did, there's no better way, in my opinion.
Yeah. And for me, like making the transition, it was actually hard. It was really hard making that transition to ConvertPoint because I'd already learned these other systems and I was kind of used to the way that those were being done. And when I got into ConvertPoint, I'm not going to lie, it was like 2 or 3 months of, trying to figure out how it's all going to work together, building it out, and then just making the transition over. I almost feel like if you're starting brand new from nothing, it's going to be easier. Yeah.
Well, and also, Todd, I think you started like a year before me in ConvertPoint when there was still some work to be done. Now, and I'm just going to sound just a little techie here for a minute. Now, even adding custom like subdomains, Like, you don't have to go to GoDaddy, and you don't have to know what DNS is. You don't have to know anything. You just say, yeah, I want it to be this. And as long as you have an account with GoDaddy or Bluehost or whoever your domain host is, it just does it. And that's the stuff that used to make my clients cry, because they're like, okay, I learned how to build a landing page. I learned how to do this. I learned how to do that. I don't understand DNS. And to be honest, you do it once. Why would they have to spend time learning DNS to do it once? So that's another thing that I love. And I think that maybe all of that wasn't quite done when you started, but that was the first thing when I first switched. Todd, I'm bringing all my stuff in and I'm getting ready to go do the subdomains. And I get in there and I see the button, it says connect. And I thought that was going to bring me to something to tell me what to do. And it says, nope, all done. And I'm like, what? It was amazing. It's so good.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that they're always improving things. They're always making things simpler for you with what they're implementing. It's like every month there's something new that makes something easier, and that's what I really like about ConvertPoint and other high level systems.
Well, they've recently added two amazing. Well, the AI as a part of a workflow. So in an email campaign, if you're brand new to doing any tech to automate, just having any email campaign is going to feel good, and it is good. But once you get a little bit past that, you can literally have a little AI ChatGPT nodule in the middle of your email campaign to have it run a ChatGPT thing and then bring whatever that prompt was back and put it in the next email. Now, back in the day, first of all, ChatGPT didn't exist, but even if it did, you would have needed to use Zapier and you would have needed to use webhooks and all this stuff that is very technical. And now it's just there. You drag it in just like you drag in an email. And now they've recently added the conversational AI. I haven't done it yet, but it looks like it's going to build you like a customer service or a FAQ bot that you can give it like a PDF of all of your FAQs to put on your landing page or your website, and it will answer people's questions. And that's built right in to ConvertPoint Go High Level. Like I said, it just came out recently and I haven't played with it yet, but I have looked at it and I'm excited. That's one of the first things on my list next week to get in there and give it a whirl.
Right. So with something like that, where you're bringing in that chatbot into your email sequence, what are some examples that you would use that for in your business?
What I did was I actually work with clients, helping them get a really crystal clear idea of who their ideal client is, not just who it is and not just the typical, here's the demographics, here's the psychographics, here's all the other stuff. It's a really in-depth model of getting their ideal client, but it's a little bit pricey. I wanted people to get a taste of what this could do and then book a call with me and discuss if doing anything like that would be good for them. So what I did was I had them fill out a form in ConvertPoint, and I just asked them a few questions in the form. I took those answers, and in the chatbot, well, it isn't really a chatbot, it's just a prompt. I took their answers from the form and I wrote a prompt that said, using these answers, please write 10 social media posts, titles, hooks, and outlines that would appeal to their ideal client. And so it was like, what? And it was just, so it was just social, it was just post ideas. Actually, no, the outline wasn't there. It was the idea, the title, and the hook. And so what I was demonstrating was, hey, this AI stuff really can help. And it really will give you information you can use that will help you reach your ideal client. And it was just one little thing right between two emails. The first email went out after they filled out the form, said, hey, thanks for filling out the form. Give us a couple of minutes and we'll get you your 10 social media post ideas. And I actually had to make it wait because it takes seconds, but I wanted it to look like it took a couple minutes. So I put a wait in there to make it wait 3 minutes and then sent them out the 10 ideas. And people were blown away. And it was like, that's just the tip of the iceberg for what I want them to learn how to do for their ideal client.
Yeah, and that's really neat because I know that personalization, like in today's world, like everybody's trying to automate so many things. And when a prospect comes in, and what they really want to see is that personalization. They want to know that what you've got is going to work for them in their specific situation? Like that's one of the big questions you have to answer. And so if you can have AI kind of take over part of that and help you with that, I think that just makes your marketing so much better and more unique than what your competitors are doing. How hard is it to be able to implement something like that if you're a beginner in all nursery?
Beginner, I actually do a little mini course on that. And to be honest, it's not that hard. And I would recommend that before somebody try to do it inside of an automation, that they go and play with ChatGPT plain. Like you don't have to get the paid version just to understand it. Because the one thing you do have to do when you add that in is you have to write the prompt. So if you've never written a prompt ever in your life, and that's the first one you're writing, and what's so cool, Todd, is the answers to the questions become custom values. So you write the prompt and then you insert the custom value for their answer to the question. So learning how to use custom values, like how to insert their first name or insert what their business name is or insert something else that you have in a field inside of your CRM. But this is just a little bit further. So my advice would be do some prompting in ChatGPT first so that when you go to write the prompt inside of the email sequence, it's not your first prompt. But if you've done prompts before and you understand custom fields, it's easy.
Yeah. So for a lot of people who maybe haven't delved into AI and all that, can you explain a little bit more about what a prompt is and why it's important?
Yes. As I said earlier, I go way back to when personal computers were actually just coming out, and I'm a programmer. So back in the day, we always used to say garbage in, garbage out, which means back when I was a programmer, that it can't do anything that the program isn't telling it how to do. So if you put in bad commands in the program, you're going to get bad output. And a prompt, while it's not a program, it is a request. It is a directive, if you will. It's an instruction. So if you don't make that instruction clear, give it context, give it all the detail, tell it what tone of voice you want it to use, tell it. One of the most important things about writing a prompt is give it a role. It loves to do role playing. Say, you are an expert in email marketing. So now it's put on its email marketing expert hat. So and then you just type. It's like, there's nothing fancy. It's not like writing programming code. You're just typing. But you do have to include certain specifics to get good output. And what all of that typing is called a prompt. And then what you get back is called a response.
Gotcha. Great. Yeah, I think that's an excellent explanation of that. The garbage in, garbage out, you're absolutely right. Because I know that sometimes I'll type something into to an AI thing, whether it's ChatGPT or something else, and the response I get isn't necessarily what I was looking for. And then so you have to clarify that. You have to try rephrasing what you want in different ways in order to get the actual response that you want.
And the other thing that a lot of times I don't think people realize at first, they certainly catch on to this moving forward, but at first people don't realize, they almost look at it as like a Google search. Well, you ask a question, you get an answer, and if it's not what you want, you're not. But with prompts, what you can do is, first of all, be specific, give it context. If you want it to be 10 lines or you want it to be one paragraph, tell it so it doesn't write you a book. Tell it what kind of a role it's playing. Tell it who the audience is. Tell it what the reason is. What is it that you want the reader to do? And then after all that, you can just tweak the prompts a little bit. But what's so important is when you get the response, read it, and you can say it just like this. You can say, I don't like that. That sounds like a robot wrote it. I want it to sound like a human. And they'll go, oh, you're right. Sorry. And it will rewrite it. Or you can say, you know what? I forgot to tell you about my ideal client. Could you rewrite this from the point of view of my ideal client, who is whoever they are? So you can turn it into a conversation. And each time you say something, that's another prompt. And it will give you better responses as you go ahead and refine it with you giving feedback like that, which makes it so much better.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. And I know that you're doing some things in Convert Point that I had no idea I could even do. And like I said, I got in there before you did. I love that you're telling me about these things, because now it's like I'm coming up with ideas of how I can use it. So, okay, so we got the AI thing with the email sequence. What are some other ways that, people who are maybe just getting started can integrate some automations or AI into their business that'll make things easier for them?
One of the things that people are using AI for is to help them to generate social media content, post ideas, podcast ideas, video scripts that they are looking for AI to help them with that. And AI can and will do that. And again, let's just use I just recently wrote a custom GPT. So a custom GPT is when you're sitting there at Chat GPT and you're just typing, you are interacting with AI, with Chat GPT directly. And it's all in one chat, and you are the only one talking about it, and it's going to do whatever's in there. And that's all it's going to do. Now, a custom GPT is when I, as the person who creates the custom, I'm writing the prompts in the background and I'm telling it what to do. And the one that I just finished, and I'm actually going to give you the link so that your listeners could actually get this. What I did was I wrote it so that you could upload a long form content, for instance, a link. I did this one for LinkedIn, but I'm doing them for Facebook and Instagram and Twitter X as well. But this one is for LinkedIn. So you upload, for instance, any long form content like a LinkedIn article or a blog post or a podcast transcript or even a video link. And you can upload the content that was long form. And then what the GPT does, the custom GPT, is it turns it into 5 LinkedIn posts with a title, a hook, and the actual content, which is very cool. And again, even though it is a custom GPT, you have the prompt box. So when you see what it does, you can go, hey, you know what? I don't like that. That's too short. I want it to be long. Or you can say, hey, that's too long. I want it to be short. Or you could say that's not enough detail. You can still interact with it. And then when you're done, you just copy and paste it into like a Word doc or a Google Doc or something. And here's where I remember in the beginning, it was garbage in, garbage out. At the end, you have to go in and edit it. You never, ever, ever copy and paste what it says and then just post it on LinkedIn or Facebook and call it your own. Because even if you say, and in my instructions, I do tell it to not use jargon, to not sound like a robot. I give it all those instructions, but I don't know you, Todd, how you write your posts. And I don't know other people who would use this I don't know what they want. So does ask them questions like, what kind of a tone do you want? Who's your ideal client? What's the purpose of this? It asks those questions. And then once you get the results and put it into a document, now you go through and you just edit it so it sounds like you. And here's my big tip for how to edit output from any AI is read it out loud, particularly for like a post or something, because it's going to do its best, but it's not going to sound just like you. And don't just read it in your head, because if you read it in your head, you're going to think about how you would have said it, but you won't change it. But if you read it out loud and you go, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like me. So you change it. Now you just it's the 80-20 rule. 80% of those 5 posts were done in a couple of minutes. And then you take probably, half an hour. But for half an hour of editing, you get 5 really, really good LinkedIn posts. So that's one of the more recent things that I've done. And I enjoy doing that. And that's something that I do that my clients can just use. But I also teach them how to do other things with AI and teach them how to do the prompting and then how to do the editing. Because I think the problem with AI is if you just expect it to do everything for you, you're going to look like a robot, because no matter how good it is, it's still not going to sound like you.
Do you think AI is ever going to get to a point where you can't distinguish from an actual human being, or?
Well, I think I mentioned to you once before when we were talking, there's this new, well, it's not new, but they're Notebook LM, which is a Google product. And what it does is it's an AI interface, if you will. And what it's meant for organizing research and turning it into like a description and an executive summary. You can use it for preparing a course. You can put your course videos in there. You can put the transcripts as the sources, and then it will come up with training guides and quizzes with the answers it's amazing. And one of the really cool things is once you put all your sources in, you can generate an audio summary. And the audio summary sounds like a man and a woman, like you and me talking here on a podcast. So it sounds like a podcast. And what the result is as if those two people read all of your source material, and now they're having a conversation about your source material. So you could put all of your coursework, like say you have a new course, you could upload them. Say you have a whole bunch of material that you want to do for blogs, you could put all of that in there and they'll just talk about it. And Todd, since the last time I spoke with you about this, they just added something that blew my mind. You get that podcast done and you click play and there's a button that says join and you click that and one of them says, hey, somebody's joining us. Do you have a question? And then I ask a question in my own voice. It becomes part of the podcast and then they answer my question from the source documents. And I was like, are you kidding me? So that does, to answer your question, that does sound very much like human. It's not, but wow, it's so close.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. You did tell me about that earlier. And I did start using it. And what I was using it for, because it could take audio directly from like a podcast and then, do things with. And so what I've been doing is with these podcast episodes, I put them in Notebook, is it Notebook LM? I put them in there and then I tell it to write a blog article. I'd say, write a blog article, 800 to 1200 words that is optimized to rank in Google for the keyword blank and then whatever I want the keyword to be. And it spits it out. And it does the H2, H3 tags. It does the ornamentation with text and the keywords in there and the bold. And it does all that stuff. Very little editing that I need to do to get it to a point where I can take it and just put it into the podcast episode on my website. But I haven't even looked at the other things that it does. I just use it for that. So now I got to play with it because now that seems really interesting to jump into a conversation between two AI bots.
Yeah. And now there's also, now this is getting way in the weeds, but you can take the audio, upload it into 11 Labs, separate it into 2 audio tracks, one for the male voice, one for the female voice. And then you can use a video that Hey Jen is the one that I like. And you can create, one of the people can be you. You can upload a video of yourself and it has to be like 3 to 5 minutes of you just talking to the camera. So it gets your image and it gets your voice, it gets your mannerisms. You're supposed to move your hands a little bit and things like that. And then Hey Jen will make an avatar of me and they'll put that underneath the female's audio track of what Notebook LM did. And then I just pick one of the male avatars that they have and put that one in for the male voice. And then there's another 11 Labs, I do my voice. So I record my voice. And what it does is it takes the script from Notebook LM, it reads it in my voice, and it takes my video. And so so you said, would it ever sound like a human? Yes. Like that sound. Now, granted, the male voice is still the male voice. It's the one that it came with, and it's a male video that I chose, but the female one is me. It's my voice, but it's recording. It's me reading the transcript from the Notebook LM. It is mind blowing.
Wow. So with something like that, I think a lot of people may have the privacy concerns about, image and likeness and things like that. Are there privacy policies there?
Yes, Todd, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes, both Hey Jen and 11 Labs, when you upload the video to make your avatar, you have to record a video of you saying that you are agreeing and releasing and all that stuff. And they compare the videos. So in other words, I couldn't have my husband shoot a video and call it Todd Gates or Todd Getz and then go and upload it and use it because it would see my husband's video is not you. So it and the same thing with your voice. When you do the 11 Labs and you do the video, they ask you to record a video reading their release script. So that's how they do it. So yes, I could go out on the internet somewhere and find somebody famous and get their voice and try to clone it for me. But unless I could get them in their voice to read that release script, they wouldn't do it. It would refuse.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, that's interesting that they do that. There seems to be like a lot of different tools that we can use because at the beginning it was just GPT, and then it seemed like 3 months later now we got
Yes.
and it's like you wonder where like one of the questions I have is like where did all these come from? Like did they all come from GPT? Like are they all just different kind of like the reverse?
Pat, some of them actually are based on ChatGPT, but most of them, like for instance, OpenAI does ChatGPT, Google does Gemini, and Claude, Anthropic does Claude. Now, and let me before I tell you how it came to be. I like Claude because it writes more like you're sitting there talking to a person. ChatGPT is really good, and it's gotten so much better in the last year and a half or so, but it still sounds a little bit like it's giving a report, like it's writing an executive summary, and that's what it sounds like. Claude, if you take something that you got from ChatGPT and just copy and paste it into Claude and go, hey, Claude, could you turn this into something that sounds more like a human? Or you could just say, could you please rewrite this? And it just really does sound more like a human. It's funny. It has a sense of humor. It catches some nuances where ChatGPT is just kind of just the facts, ma'am. Claude is kind of innuendo and things like that. And all of these things are called large language models. So the technology is ubiquitous. It's out there. Everybody has it. And what that means, a large language model, what it's actually doing is it's anticipating what the next word should be based on the language that it has learned from everything that's on the internet. Now, up until recently, ChatGPT was only trained up through like the end of 2023. So its knowledge stopped then. But now they've added web search so you can actually get current information. But the part where it's writing answers and use when you're doing prompts, when it's doing responses, that's the large language model technology where based on everything it knows, it anticipates, okay, I heard what Phyllis asked, and now I'm going to look and see what would make sense based on what I know about the language. And that's how it does the responses. Another tool that is not really the same, but I love it. It's called Perplexity. And what I think is going to happen is either Google is going to get more like Perplexity, or Perplexity is going to put Google out of business, which probably won't happen. But what Perplexity does is I think of it as a research assistant. Like you can just say, give it a topic and say, I need to know, you could give it parameters, like I need to know this about that. Or you could just say a topic and it will write you a really nicely well-written summary of all of the sources. And then it'll give you the list of the sources. And based on your question and what it found in the sources underneath it, it'll say, you might want to know this and you might want to know that. And it's spot on. And that's where I go to get my resources that I put into Notebook LM. Like if I want to do something on a subject, like an AI subject or something, I'll go into Perplexity and say, hey, tell me what I need to know about this. And it'll give me all the sources. I copy them into Notebook LM, and then I can do the summary. And like you say, write the blogcast or the blog posts and all that, and get those audio summaries, which are like podcasts.
Wow. Yeah, it does seem that could definitely put Google out of business. And I'm thinking about like all the people who have websites that rely on SEO in order to, rank their websites and get traffic. I'm curious now is what's going to happen in the coming months and years, for website traffic and things like that.
And you know what? One of the things to remember is when you pay for Google Ads, you're paying for clicks. First of all, you want Google to raise your link up to the top so that someone will click. And that's how they get paid. Like that's what you're paying for is clicks. Well, since Google added that AI summary to the top of each Google search, nobody clicks anymore. Like, oh yeah, there's my answer. Thanks. I'm out of here. So they haven't monetized that AI summary yet, but I'm guessing they will soon enough. But I'm kind of heartbroken that they will, because as of right now, before they monetize it, it really is just the best information, which is one of the reasons I love Perplexity is there's no ads. It goes out and it gives you the best information to answer the question that you asked. Google you always have to know that the top links always say sponsored. It's always the people who pay the ads that get their links at the top. And so far, the AI summary is not ad driven, but I think it will be soon. And that's sad because that isn't necessarily the actual best answer. It's just the best answer of the people who paid for ads.
I think the whole reason a lot of people create their content online is to get the clicks. And if they're not getting,
Exactly. Yep.
why would they create the content? But then the AI is fed by that content that people are creating too, right?
Yes.
And
And you mentioned SEO and keywords, Todd. That's one of the big, like even LinkedIn is like hashtags are so last year. And now they're going to SEO and contextual text keyword searches. And I think that's what's going to happen is that the SEO is going to be different because of the AI in the background, because all of the SEO agencies that are going to like do your SEO, well, they're still working on yesterday's model of how Google works. And now it's different. And because there's actual internet search built into ChatGPT, and you can Gemini, of course, is part of Google. So it does internet searches. So when you give a prompt, it's actually using, in addition to the large language model, it's looking for the keywords that are in your question. So it is kind of based still on SEO and keywords, but just not in the way that we're used to. So I see a shift in the SEO types of firms that do that for a living.
yeah. Well, and I'm even talking about the content creators, right? Like there needs to be some incentive for them to create their content. If nobody's, reading their blog or watching their videos or whatever, because AI is just giving them the answer, then why even create the content? And then if the content stuff's being created, well, then where is AI going to go to get the information, right? Well, I think something here has to change, or something has to evolve to where there's an incentive for people to create the content still.
You know where that has already started to happen is on YouTube. There's a lot more people creating content on YouTube because of just what you just said. Is in YouTube, you can search inside of YouTube, and like my son is in his mid-20s. He never uses Google. He looks everything up on YouTube. So in YouTube, the keywords and the SEO still work, but most content creators aren't comfortable. And I don't want the burden of having a YouTube channel. Unless that's my business, that's a lot of work. Well, you have a very good point. If I'm writing a blog post or if I'm writing an article, one thing I will say to people who are listening who want their stuff to be seen, if you post it on LinkedIn, believe it or not, like I've written articles on LinkedIn and they show up on Google searches. When I have written blog posts and things in the past, I don't have a blog any longer because I was having that issue. But the things that I post on LinkedIn do come up. So LinkedIn is doing something with the SEO. So probably the answer, Todd, is going to be the rest of us are going to figure out what LinkedIn is doing. And then content creators will start doing that, and that will raise it up.
Yeah, something's going to evolve here, and we have to still incentivize people to create their content, because that's what drives everything. I know that whenever I'm on YouTube and I see an AI driven video, right? Like it's obviously not created by a human. It's like, I don't care about it. Like the only AI stuff that I'm curious about is like, one really neat thing I did see were these AI debates, where they have you seen this, where there's two sides, there's one AI bot on one side and the other on the other side, and they're debating like a hot topic. And then they have AI judges. They have like 5 different AI judges based on different models, and they'll decide who wins the debate. And they talk about all sorts of things, like religion and politics, like all that stuff. And they have AI debate it. And it's really interesting because the emotions don't get in the way. It's all just, very factual, which is what I found just very fascinating about it. So that is one of the AI generated content.
And while of course debate is not sporting, but if you have judges, it's almost like figure skating or gymnastics or something where the judges are ranking the performance, if you will. And that's kind of interesting. But I agree with you. When I see an AI generated video on YouTube, I just next. Like I just don't. If you're too lazy to get on the camera and record your own video, to me, it's just almost insulting to me as the viewer that you didn't think it was important enough to do this. That brings me back around to what I said earlier about don't just take what AI does and call it your own without your touch. And when you see these AI videos, they are AI videos. And to be honest, even though I think it's cool that I can make an avatar of me and it looks like me and I can put that other script in, I know it's not me. And it kind of makes me feel a little creeped out. I do it just because it's fun, but I've never put one out. Like I did it for myself just because I had to see how it worked. But I wouldn't put it out there and pretend that it's me, and I think that's where there's a lot of the deep fakes that are happening where they're taking little snippets of somebody famous like, Taylor Swift or Beyonce or something and then creating videos of them and it's not. But so there's a lot going on with YouTube and other companies having to really police that kind of thing. And because there is privacy and there's copyrights and there's it's a crime. That's impersonating someone. You know what I mean? So we're getting into like you said, it just seems like it was 6 months ago, but now here we are. Never put it past the evil geniuses of the criminal human element to find a way to use things that could be used for good, to use them not necessarily for evil, but to make money for themselves using someone else or taking advantage of someone else. So there's going to be some, and it goes way beyond intellectual property, which has always been an issue. But so it's going to be interesting to see how this develops. And the sad part is that people I don't know if it's going to be judges or if it's going to be even YouTube's content police, whatever they call themselves, by the time they figure out how they're going to police what people are doing now, it'll be 6 months from now and they'll be doing something else. So it's like a hamster wheel. You got to keep going. And it's just going to be fascinating. It's a wonderful time in history to be alive, to see all this happening. And it makes me wonder, where are we going to be in 100 years or 50 years? It's remarkable.
Yeah. And like you said, we're living in very interesting times and it's a unique time to be alive. And I think we can be grateful for that. One thing I will say, because I think a lot of people are maybe afraid of AI takeover and all that, especially if you've got an online business or something like that. I know that one thing AI will never do is it will never replace the know, like, and trust factor for online businesses. If you're a coach, you're a course creator, people will still only buy from those that they know, like, and trust. And a robot is never going to get that. A robot is never, because they don't have life experience, right? The whole reason why people identify with you is because they find something similar in your background, or a similar experience or something in your life that they can identify with, which an AI bot is never going to have, right?
No. And I'm so glad you said that because most of my clients are coaches, but some are consultants and they're doing technical stuff as a consultant. And all of them, not every single one, but most of them have voiced the fear AI is going to replace me. And my answer is always no. Somebody who knows how to use AI is going to replace you because you're absolutely right. AI isn't going to take anybody's job, but who is maybe going to take your job is somebody who knows how to use AI and gains the know, like, and trust and delivers, okay, this is the new thing. Here's the right way to do it. And it demonstrates that they're a nice person, that they know what they're talking about, all the things that have always been true. There's always going to be a human touch there. And I agree with you completely that first of all, AI will never do that. And for that reason, AI isn't going to take your job, but people who learn how to use AI are going to take your job.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that just speaks to the importance of branding and creating original content and putting yourself out there in your brand. Those are going to be more important than ever. But also, like you said, leveraging AI in the places where you can to allow you to free up your time where you can actually do that.
Right, and branding, you hit the nail on the head. Branding is always going to be about the person or the team, depending. It is never going to be about who uses ChatGPT better. That's never going to be a brand. It's going to be about the person who is the face. If we're talking about solopreneurs or very small business, it's the face of the business. What is their ability to be educational and friendly and approachable and educational and doing all of the things just like always. But behind the scenes, are they using automation? Yeah, they are. Are they using AI? Yep, they are. But that's behind the scenes. So AI isn't going to be what's out there making people fall in love. It's always going to be the person.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Phyllis, I know you mentioned earlier that you had a freebie for our audience, something to help them out getting started with automations and AI. Can you give us the link for that, or what is that?
Yeah, I call it the repurpose rocket. And it takes a long form piece of content and repurposes it into, in this case, it's 5 LinkedIn posts. And then I have another one that is still being built, but it's going to do the same thing for Facebook. And then I have one for Instagram. And then I have one more for Twitter, X. And I haven't worked enough with Blue Sky, but I have a feeling that whatever works on Twitter or X would also work on Blue Sky. So there will be separate Rocket GPTs, but they all work the same way. You upload a long form of content, similar to what you're doing with Notebook LM, where you upload a podcast and it creates a blog post. It's similar to that, where you upload your long form content, answer 4 questions, and it creates 5 posts for you.
All right. Thank you so much for that. And also, if people want to connect with you further, maybe get your help to start implementing AI in their business, how can they find you online?
I am most active on LinkedIn these days. And if you go to LinkedIn, right in my bio is a link to book a call. It's not a sales call. It's a call to discuss what you are trying to do. And I'll give you honest feedback, give you some immediate things you can do. And then if you want to work with me to help you with certain things, we can certainly arrange that. I'm also on Facebook, and you could just go to it's Phyllis Winters. And if you just go to my profile page and click the link, it leads you into my Facebook group, where you can also book a call with me. And again, they're not sales calls. They are consulting calls, if you will, just to talk to you and have you tell me what you're doing, what you're trying to do, and if you're having any problems. And then I give you honest feedback to what the best tech, AI, and automation would be to help you do more with less time.
Awesome. Well, Phyllis, thank you so much for this discussion. It's been really interesting, and I think there's so much here for people to unpack. I know that if they take advantage of your offers here, that they're definitely going to get a lot more done in their business and get ahead of their competition. So thank you for those. And thank you for being on the podcast today.
You're welcome, Todd. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.